The Penguin, episode 7, Top Hat. And I gotta say, this might be on the top of the list for the best episode of this series, which is saying a lot. Let's discuss all that happened this episode. All right, guys, Brent here back with Geek Variants. Cover all things Marvel, DC, Lord of the Rings, anime, gaming, Star Wars, and more. This time, The Penguin. Will, your thoughts on what I believe might be show of the year?
Yo, Penguin is hitting on all cylinders. I'm gonna say it once. I'm gonna say it twice. I'm gonna say it from the top of the mountain. Two, this episode has been really good at setting up. Like it did not go exactly where I think it was gonna go, the way that it ended, and I love that it gave me that, that misdirection, a little bit of that curve, but it was still no less satisfying in terms of showing just how brutal some of these characters can be, and just kind of getting into it and seeing Vic. I mean, this is probably the least screen time Vic's got the entire freaking series. Just hey, you okay? You good? What happened? Where's she at? Hey, you got to go get the people. We got work to do. Vic was out the door, and now he's got to deal with Sal face to face, and we just kind of get into it, and it was so good because I had no idea where they're going to go from there. So I loved it.
The minute we got Sal on screen, I knew this episode was going to go exactly the opposite of anything I could have predicted for this episode. And for that, the entire series is 100% better off. You never want someone sitting at a computer telling you what your story should have been. And the fact that they managed to have so many different moments where it just went a hard left or hard right on us when we anticipated what was going to happen from just our experiences watching shows and seeing comics and thinking what these characters are going to do, but always being happily surprised by what's going to be around the bend is fantastic. And Sal, for someone who wants so much blood in this game, and he has every right to, Oz did him dirty. He handled himself well for the most part. He was able to assert himself the way that he wanted to. He was able to capture the man he wanted to, and he was able to take Oz where he wanted him to go. Because as much as Sal is someone who is straight up about, getting personal revenge, he's also just as equally someone who wants to go ahead and push his business to the next level. So recovering the product that was originally Sophia's That Bliss, he had nothing to lose in that. He was never a part of the original venture for it. So the fact that he would even be getting a cut of it, huge win for him. And the fact he gets to take out personal vendetta against, Oz while doing it, win-win. Talk to the folks about how some of that situation kind of played out and how they went there after they arrived at Oz's basically business front.
So basically, with Sal, like I want you to take us to where you're doing your operation. Like, where is this stuff coming from? And as they get in and they find out where it's coming from, because again, Oz just wants, hey, I got to talk to my mother. I want to make sure she's good. That's the most important person in his life. And you can talk to her and it's straight to business. You're going to show me where this stuff is. They went in there, dropped like 2 people, and was like, we run the show now. Take them in the process. Get back to work. We're going to pack up all the stuff. It's coming to Sophia's because this is all Sophia's stuff. And the fact is that the loyalty that he has pushed throughout these men for them to be able to do what they do, which it annoys me a little bit because it's like everything that he's done with the other characters, again, like Eve, so that who flipped on him stuff earlier on. Like you figure, he had some loyalty with her, but no, he had still loyalty in these guys. So when he just kind of gave him a look, it wasn't even like a whole like, hey, dude, like, it was just like a look. And his buddy who was working on electricity, we saw a couple episodes back, was like, all right. And everybody was just kind of ready, waiting. And as soon as they got the free moment, snatched them, cords, dropped the power, chaos ensues. Because Sal only came in there with like what 4 guys, and it was
He came
like
in there
30
like
of them in there.
4 or 5, and there was like 40 people. I don't know how you
Yeah,
thought those odds were in your favor.
just because you have guns drawn, you think you got to cover it? No, somebody coming out the back, and that's just kind of what happened. and everything got overpowered. It got down to what we wanted. We was waiting for Oz versus Sal, scrapping, going at it. Sal was throwing them hands, but Oz was tanking them hits, so he was taking a lot of damage and still talking, trash, which I love that about him. Like again, Ma called him sturdy because that's what we had. Forget, we'll get to the little flashback scene in a minute, but Ma called him sturdy for a reason. Like again, he was able to take some of that damage, but overall, Sal was just so heartbroken seeing the Penguin in the state that he was, seeing Oz in the state that he was. It just broke Sal's heart. It just he couldn't handle it.
Yeah, and then what Will's alluding to, Sal, while taking his winning moments, while taking his vengeance, while putting his heart and soul into every blow, he popped his own. He had a heart attack, he had a stroke, he had some kind of medical emergency where, the left side of his body went numb, and next thing you know, wide-eyed, drops completely back down on his back. That's all she wrote. And we saw that, Sal now can be completely out of the picture. We see that Oz won by default, but a win's a win. And for all intents and purposes, Oz was able to tank all those stuff and continue to push his way forward. And we got tons more backstory involving what happened with Oz and his family. We saw that him and his two brothers went out playing. They weren't playing underground, very close to where his operation is. And ultimately, his brothers kind of picked on him a little bit, kind of pushed his buttons while they were playing light tag or whatever you called it. And they were kind of trying to force him to go down these set of stairs. And he's got a metal foot. He's not going to be able to make these kinds of moves that everyone else is. And he got fed up with it. So he closed like a storm drain door. And if you've never been underground, those doors are one-sided. They only open from one side, the outside where Oz was. So the minute he closed that storm drain during a night of heavy, heavy rain where all the water is going to pool into, we saw that Oz ultimately is the reason his brothers are no longer with the family, so to speak. And it was heartbreaking and gut-wrenching to see. But I think it adds more depth to Oz's character. How do you feel about that playing out with everything in this episode?
The thing is, you can't tell with Oz what it is. And we know that he cares about his mother. We know that his brothers, like when they came in and they were playing, he got kind of annoyed. So you tell there was like a little tinge of animosity there. But they went to go handle business. And while the older brother Jack is trying to be on the straight and narrow, he's 15. He's trying to take care of his brothers and stuff. He got some money. He's like, I'm gonna get the money to Mom because we got to make sure the family's good. Oz is the middle, and he's just like, we can go hit the arcade, we can go do something. And even the young brothers like, yeah, let's go do something. He's 10. We can push Oz somewhere between 12, probably 12 and 13. But they end up, it's about to rain. Instead of heading home, they just go, let's go play at this place while it rains, which again ended up raining all night. So technically they would have been there all night anyway. But I digress. They're going to go play and they're going to go hang out. And Oz, literally, when he closed that drain because he didn't want to deal with them, I cannot tell if it was malicious intent, not necessarily trying to kill, but just I want y'all out of the picture for a while for that, or what? Because again, it don't look like he read. They look like they've been there a couple times. They already have flashlights there, so they've been there a couple times. So did Oz know exactly what that was? Did anybody know exactly what that was? When he closed it, he didn't like he read anything. He just kind of closed it and walked away and went home. But as things went on, like you didn't really get any inclination that he realized what he'd done. But it seemed like in the back of his head, he knew what was done and kind of what happened and as it was going on. And it's kind of like that's something he just has to live with. And I think that's part of why he's like, don't mention my brother Jack. Don't mention, like, I think he's still got some unresolved guilt about it. And he just hasn't processed it yet.
He's repressed it to the point he's just, as long as it's not brought up, he can live with it. But when it's brought up in his face, he kind of sees the sins that he has committed. And we can't tell, like you said, whether or not it was malicious or just a child being like, oh yeah, this isn't really a big issue. It's kind of like when you like throw a snowball at someone, you don't really think much about it, but like, hey, what if that snowball has a rock in it and you hit someone between the eyes? The kid never had malicious intent, but you can still realize that there are significant dangers that could pertain to these sorts of events that could change it from playful to dangerous. And as the episode progressed, the episode got way more dangerous because we saw that Oz finally goes ahead, calls Sophia's like, hey, I'll give you everything you ever wanted. Give me my mother alive, unhurt, in a good state of mind. We're good. I'll give you my whole operation. I'll give you my contacts. I'll give you my money. I will give you everything that I have in order to fix this situation. You can be the queen of Gotham. I don't care. I just want my mother back, which, of course, we know is kind of a load of crock in a sense because he was armed to the teeth. But we also get the sense that he genuinely wanted his mother's safety above every other plan he's had going on. And then we had one of the crazier, most suspense-filled moments in this series to date. You want to run the folks through that one?
Oh man, I mean, which one? I had a couple, so that, but suspense more or less when it came down to what's going to happen. So the moments that I had to deal with was what's going to happen with Frankie. Like, what is the deal involving Frankie? Oz wanted her back. We know that the doctor was running some stuff on her, got them red waves or whatever that kind of thing that was going on. Sophia had to go talk to the little girl and find out what she knew and what she saw. And she said she saw the mask, and Sophia just got up front and was like, hey, I wanted everybody gone, and I don't feel bad about it at all. Really jacked up how she said it, and I think she kind of messed that kid up even more, which could set up for something with the kid in the future. But yeah, it got down to Spencer's like, what's going to happen to Frankie? And because she was snappy the entire time that she was in custody.
Mm-hmm.
But we get down,
handsy.
but we get down to that phone call between Oz and Sophia, and it's just like, I want my mother back. He's like, well, I got a little present for you. I'll send it your way. Sent it with a guy freaking in a black G-Wagon. Just like, here you go. And again, it was just like creeping around that car was like so agonizing to see what was going to happen, because you got to remember how her brother was left and he was missing. So he was just sitting there, and is about to be some get back. What's going to happen? Like, what's the deal? And we pull back that thing. And I'm thinking we finna see Frankie, right? Like this. And we don't see Frankie. We see 18 seconds left before, that bomb drops.
About to go.
Like it's about to go off. And this thing implodes like the city center that they're at. Like, it was a pretty sizable explosion. Like, this thing looked like, it was probably, could run, like it was a good radius and sort of that. Probably run like 2 blocks at least, and two square blocks. And the thing about it is, the people up top didn't know what was coming; they were just hit with it. And then people down below, we don't know how many of them managed to make it out, because Oz was screaming like, "Yo!" He screamed like, we gotta go. Like, he screamed something, but he didn't have enough time to warn anybody before he got himself to safety. Like, it was like, yo, we gotta go now. It's 18 seconds. And by the time his realization kicked in at this bomb, it was down to 15. So, he got a bum leg and he already trying to run to get out of there. He is waddling his butt off to get out of there. And it looked like he did a penguin slide to get down the thing, but he made it. But like, that had me on edge so much.
And then only for him to not only make it out of that situation, climb his way back out to freedom. And then as we think he's finally getting his bearing, the sound's clearing back out. So there's not that, ringing in your ears that you have post blast. Runs into the crooked cop who works for the now Gigante family, takes a cane shot directly to the temple. He is down and out, and now in the hands of Sophia, who, for all intents and purposes, just kind of figured that Oz, being the person that he is going to survive. What's going to happen with Vic? What's going to happen with Frankie? What's going to happen with Oz? Where is the triads in all this? Did the Bliss operation survive? So many questions. Is Rush really going to be someone that's important? Well, to have all those questions answered, we're only going to have to stay tuned till next week for the finale of what potentially could be show of the year. Any final thoughts, Will?
Gimme.
This series is fantastic. Tell your friends about it. Tell your friends about us. Hit that lovely red subscribe button. Tell your friends, hey, go ahead, hit that free subscribe button. Greatly helps us out. We're also on Twitch, follow button, entirely free. And continue to watch our amazing videos as we are getting ever closer to having this channel potentially monetized because of you, the viewer. Thank you so much for all your support. I've been Brent for Geek Variants with the man, the myth, the Marvel. We'll see you for the finale next week.